Hello, hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity with our podcast host, Keegan, and this is your podcast for all mental health, addiction, recovery issues, and topics. I've got a question for you real quick. Do you like talking about sex? Do you like sex? Well, that's kind of the thing. I think a lot of us do to some regards, but a lot of us don't like talking about sex. However, Xanet Pailet, God, I almost had it the first time. Did I say that right? Or close-ish?
Xanet, it's kind of close. Xanet Pailet. Yeah, Xanet Pailet.
Ah,
I know.
so close. Well, Xanet Pailet is here to talk to us all about sex, but also just a little bit more about her real quick. She is a sex and intimacy educator, a somatic experiencing trauma practitioner, a Tantra teacher, and the best-selling author of Living an Orgasmic Life, Heal Yourself and Awaken Your Pleasure. So we're going to dive into everything that we can as much as we can within an hour, of course, because there's a lot to unpack here, because sex and mental health really just kind of go hand in hand, and we really don't think about it that much. But I digress. Xanet, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what made you, write a book about sex?
Well, first of all, thank you, Keegan, for having me on the show. I'm excited to talk about this topic. I'm always excited when somebody wants to talk about this topic because I think, just like you, I think it's such an important topic, especially in the area of mental health. And I really want to help all of your listeners learn how to improve their love life, which to me is a very, very important topic.
Mm-hmm.
How did I write a book about sex? It's such a great question. So if you knew me when I was like in my teens and 20s, you would be shocked that I would be writing a book about sex or have anything to do with it, because I'm the person who really kind of hated sex. It was, I had some very shameful experiences. So there is such a thing as shame trauma. Trauma shows up in a lot of different, ways, but shame is one of them. And a lot of like shameful experiences when I was really young, like really little, and like kind of, innocent things like getting caught playing doctor with my friend Josephine in 7th grade. Sorry, not 7th grade. When I was 7 years old in 1st grade.
Whoa. Okay.
Seventh grade would have been a little different experience. A
little expected by that point.
I know. And then she was my best friend, and she was from England, and she moved away the next year. And first of all, I got in a lot of trouble from my mom when her mom walked in on us. And then I thought for years that the reason she moved away was because I was a bad person because of what happened, right? So those types of experiences, I had a little bit of a close relationship with my, dog when I was like 7, 8 years old, the same time, right? And all of those experiences made me feel like sex wasn't safe and my body wasn't a safe place to be. And, even when my dog Lucky and I write about all of this in my book, so I have no shame talking about it, but even when my dog Lucky and I had a little bit too close of a relationship, which, dogs like to sniff and lick, and it felt good on a 7-year-old body, but I was really scared that my mom would find out, right? Because I already had been socialized, I already been shamed from my very first experience. And that just stuck with me. Like it stuck with me in my body. It made me feel disconnected from my body. And that anxiety just compounded with everything. And so sex was just very anxious for me, and it was painful. When I actually started having sex, my body was like, this isn't safe. This isn't safe. And it never got any better. And, but I was married at 24, which is very, very young, especially these days for many people. And there was a lot of drama. I ended up having my two children, and I was done by the time I was 28. And then I just kind of closed up shop because there was a lot of trauma and drama around sex. And I was a healthcare lawyer. My husband was a lawyer, and we lived in New York City.
Uh-huh.
And it was just like, yeah, it's easier not to talk about this. It's easier not to do this.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because it was very uncomfortable for me. Like even,
Mm.
you know, anytime it came up, there would be tears
Ugh.
and, bad, right?
Yeah,
Bad,
yeah, that's not cool.
uncomfortable, shameful. I felt broken. So
Mm.
it was just easier. And we do this all the time, right? It was easy for me
Mhm.
just to repress all of that, any type of
Oof.
sexual energy or drive I had. And I repressed it
Ugh.
for like 26 years. I was in this marriage,
Whoa.
I know, for 26 years. Call,
What?
call me crazy, right?
Oh, that would
talk
drive someone
about
crazy.
talk about retrieving sanity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So it was a logical thing to do, but really what happened was two things. One is,
Mhm.
and I see this all the time because I'm a sex and intimacy coach, and I specifically work mostly with couples and some women.
Mhm.
When the sex starts falling apart, the
Mhm.
relationship started falling apart as well. We really didn't have any intimacy. We didn't
Oh.
have the healthiest relationship to begin with. I didn't know that
Mm.
then. I was 24 years old. Like, what the hell do you know when you're 24 years old, right?
Nothing.
Nothing, right?
Nothing.
24-year-olds should not get married.
Oh.
Sorry, that's what I took away from it.
Keep
Um,
same.
but, um, but the relationship really started falling apart, and we stayed together we were great parents. We were a great
Mhm.
family unit. We stayed together for that. But there was no intimacy, no touching. We slept in separate
Mm.
bedrooms. I mean, it was,
Ah.
yeah, I know. And
Mm.
I didn't really think I was missing anything, Keegan, because it never felt good for me. I never had an orgasm. Like my friends
Mm.
talked about it, but I didn't know what they were talking about. So
Yeah.
eventually,
Huh.
when I turned 50 and my second son had gone off
Mhm.
to college, we separated.
Mm.
And I
I
took a
mean,
hard, we had to, right? Like,
yeah,
can't be
maybe
like going,
yay.
maybe, no, big yay, big
Big
yay.
yay, big yay, okay.
Big yay. It was like we're both lawyers. We just sat down, we took out a legal pad, and we started writing down, you get this, I get this. Literally, that's what that conversation
Fair
was.
enough.
A little heartless in my a little heartless conversation, but
I
that's what
mean,
lawyers do.
yeah, it kind of feels like the beginning. Well, I mean, it feels like it was on par, you know?
Was.
Yeah.
It was totally
Mm.
on par. But here's the thing: like, I'm living in New York City. I'm 50 years old. I'm fairly
Mhm.
attractive. I'm definitely like a relationship person. I enjoy
Mhm.
being with people. I enjoy
Yeah.
relationships. And I took this hard look at myself, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to go get on some dating sites. And I'm going to have to
Oh.
say, like, I'm this awesome woman. I'm really smart. I have my own business. At that point, I did have my
Mhm.
own healthcare consulting company.
Yeah.
But I just hate sex. That's the problem. Do you want to date me? Right.
Mhm.
And that wasn't going to fly.
Nah.
So it really forced me. I had never done therapy, or I'd started doing therapy at the end
Mm.
of my marriage. Right.
Uh-huh.
And that was probably the first time I started actually, as we do in therapy, actually saying out loud, I'm not happy in this
Mm.
marriage. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then I was like, I gotta do something about this. And it forced me to take a really hard look
Mhm.
at me and who I was and my background and my history and
Mhm.
the shame trauma. I didn't even have a name for it, that I
Mm.
experienced, as a
Yeah.
child, and some of the physical manifestations of
Mhm.
being so disconnected from my body.
Mhm.
Um, and that was the beginning. I was 50 years old at the time. So I'm
Mhm.
65 now. It's been a 15-year journey. Yeah, and it still continues, right?
Yeah.
Of course, right? But that was the beginning of the healing journey for me. And I
Okay.
really took a deep dive. I got involved in Tantra,
Okay.
which was my doorway into sexuality. And it was
Uh-huh.
very safe
Oh.
because there was no focus on outcomes or
Uh-huh.
goals. There was just
Mhm.
a focus on like breathing and being in your body and having, this being treated as a goddess. I mean, who doesn't want to be
Mhm.
treated like a goddess, right?
Yeah.
Worshipped like a goddess. And it was just a very like safe space, at least for me. I know
Mhm.
some people haven't had safety around Tantra, but for me, it was
Mhm.
a very safe space to begin to start to explore my sexuality. And I went through
Mhm.
all of these trainings, and
Huh.
eventually I moved to California because,
Uh-huh.
you know, if you want to study sex, you really kind of at that time you had to go to California where all the Tantra teachers are and the sex
Yeah.
coaches are and
Yeah. Makes
all the
sense.
trainings, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and yeah, and then, you know, I'm a very curious person. I'm very like education focused.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to know more. You know, I wanted to
Yeah.
understand physiology. I wanted to understand psychology. Like, so I just took one training after another, after another, after another,
Uh,
till I felt like I had like enough tools in my tool belt that I could actually like make a mark in the world. Not like I'm a perfectionist or anything.
I mean, I don't think you'd have to be a perfectionist or anything just to crave knowledge. I mean, I was that weird kid in school that was like, "Hey, I got a lot of questions," and the teacher was like, "Just wait until you get to college," you know. So, but I mean, it's awesome that you were able to do those kind of things, but it's you did so much because I guess once you opened that doorway, you found that there was a whole lot more than just sex, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that was what was so, you know, fascinating for me and why I just got so like interested in it because sexuality was the doorway to huge growth and
Mm-hmm.
huge personal transformation, right?
Ah. Uh-huh.
In every way from who I was and what I wanted in life,
Mm-hmm.
what I wanted to do with my life. When I was a healthcare lawyer, right? And then
Mm.
all of a sudden, and it, you know, it was fine. I had my own
Yeah.
business. It was very successful, but
Yeah.
there was an empty feeling. There was like, is this really all there is? Like, is this really all that life has
Mm.
to give?
Yeah.
You know, and the answer was like, no, like
Mm-mm.
this is what you're supposed to do. Like you went through all of that pain for 26
Mhm.
years, more than that, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that you can help other people. You can help other women
Ah.
who are sexually shut down and
Mhm.
confused. And then
Mhm.
eventually, you know, you can help other couples. But, you know, so yes, I'm a wounded healer, like so many healers are,
Yeah.
no surprise.
Mhm.
Um, but it really did, you know, it really cast a whole different light on the importance of like what is intimacy
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
really never had that, you know, like what is it to
Mhm.
really be intimate, to be vulnerable?
Yeah.
Vulnerability, super, super scary place to be,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Still a really scary place to be. But when you
Mhm.
open yourself up, you start to open yourself up, you are very vulnerable.
Yeah.
So there were so many lessons and ways in which I changed as a person,
Mhm.
that were like, I don't think I even changed my name. I hardly ever say that, but I did.
Whoa.
Like, this
Huh.
is not my given name. My given name is Janet. Um,
Ah.
but at one of
Ah.
my, I know, one of a training I went to, one of my first trainings,
Uh-huh.
uh, I had a lover at that time who called, he was from Australia, and he called me Xanet because with very, very sexy Australian accent.
Janet.
Janae. And so I went to this training and they were like, well, you can have whatever name you want. And I'm like, well, let's just try Janae and see how it lands. And we'll spell it with an X because I'm at a sex training. It's
Oh,
true.
yes. I love it.
It's true,
That
but
is
it
awesome.
was very powerful. Name changes
Yeah.
are very powerful, right? It was
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
part of the huge transformation that I went through. My
Yeah.
family freaked out because all of a sudden mom had a different name, my brother in particular. Honestly, it wasn't until this year that he actually said, okay, I'm going to start calling you Janae 15 years later.
Wow.
But yeah. But yeah, so it was a huge transformation. I really became
Yeah.
like, there was like the pre-Genet stage
Uh-huh.
and then the post-Genet stage. And
Mhm.
they were very, very different people in many ways,
Yeah.
some ways, but in certain ways, they were very, very different people.
Oh yeah, that is for sure. I don't know if I've ever actually said this on my own podcast, but Keegan is actually my middle name. So I actually go by my middle name after I got out of rehab from my 10-year battle with alcoholism. So yay. Because I was like, Keegan it's my middle name. I've always liked it a little bit more than Tanner. And so I was like, and it's Irish and I like my Irish roots, so I was like, I'll roll with it. And same kind of thing happened. A lot of my family was like, what do we call you? Do we call you Tanner or Keegan? And I was like, either one, it doesn't really matter. They're both my name. But for you, it was something entirely different. You actually got to mold
I
your
know.
name. You got to essentially remake yourself
I
like
did.
through and through. That's powerful stuff.
It was very powerful. It was a total remake of who I am, how
Mm-hmm.
I dressed, how I
Mm-hmm.
talked, what I
Ah.
believed. Some of my beliefs changed.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
became a lot softer. I mean,
Uh-huh.
a lot more feminine. I'm a lawyer. I'm a New
Yeah.
York City lawyer. I'm like da 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 da.
Mhm. Yeah.
Exactly. And I really started just to feel these changes happening in my body, which I think is what always happens when you start going through some sort of major personal transformation and growth, right? Like
Yeah.
you really start to significantly change, and it was for
Mhm.
the good. It was for a good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was for an astoundingly good reason, and I mean, it's just one of those things too where you change your name, and it's again, it goes right back to that shame almost because it's like Janet was shamed in sex and things for being herself, but Janae is empowered by sex and things by being herself.
I never really thought about it that way, but it's absolutely right. That is that there you're probably right. That was probably a huge part of it, of like having to escape that identity, the mother, you
Mhm.
know what I'm saying, the mother, the wife, the shamed person, to
Mhm.
escape that identity. And I don't think I could have done it with my old name. Yeah,
Yeah. Because
interesting.
yeah, names just are something that define us to a point, and we don't really get to choose that,
No,
but you
right.
chose it,
I
and
did.
so you rewrote your life after that. That is awesome.
I did.
So, um, but so did you change your name after you found the Tantra stuff? Was it after all that, or was it a little bit before?
No, no, it was after.
Okay.
It was at a training. I had already done I had done I think I had done a tantra training, a little
Mhm.
bit of a tantra training. I've done a lot of trainings. And
Mm.
then I was living in California. I had moved to California. My mom had passed away.
Mhm.
And she had dementia, so it was a blessing.
Oh,
I
yeah.
decided just to like take a year off, which I've never done. I mean,
Oh.
literally, like when I my child was first born, my first kid was born, and I was a
Mhm.
lobbyist on Capitol Hill, and we had a
Oh.
lobbying day. 4 weeks after I gave birth, that child was with me nursing on Capitol Hill, right? So I
No.
never took time off, really, like
Wow.
something like that. But I decided to take a
Mhm.
year off because I really needed to like figure out what the hell I was going to do.
Mhm.
I didn't want to keep on working, doing what I was doing. I knew I needed to make a shift, and I didn't know what that was like.
Mhm.
But I thought it was going to be in this area. And so, no, I did my first training, which was sexological bodywork training, which is amazing. It was an amazing training program. And it was at
Mhm.
that training where they said, "What's your name?" And I was like, "We're going to
Hmm.
try Janae and see how that sticks."
Yeah. I love that because it really does kind of paint that picture that subconsciously you were probably hating that name for a while,
Mhm.
and
100%.
then it just you had that boyfriend or lover, whatever we want to call him, just come along and just jokingly call you that, and then I think your subconscious just latched onto it and been like, oh, that's directed towards me. I can have another name,
Yeah,
and then you got permission from some other people to rename yourself. I
I
think that's
did.
awesome.
Yeah,
And
I definitely did.
I think it's kind of it goes right back into the whole we tend to kind of build a cage with the expectations of others, and that's kind of what shame is, right? They
Yeah,
shame us into getting to be comfortable with what they're comfortable with.
right.
And so you got permission to step out of that cage and just say, "Yeah, nah, I don't want to be here anymore."
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't easy, but it took,
No.
I mean, I guess in general, I've always been a risk taker in life,
Mhm.
and I took a big risk. I left all of my friends, all my families, my kids who were all on the East
Mhm.
Coast. I didn't know
Yeah.
anybody in California, and decided to go to California,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, but it was definitely taking a big step. And let's talk about shame for a moment, because when we
Yeah.
started this podcast, you said like sex is something we should be talking about, but it's sometimes hard to talk about, right?
Mhm.
And I know that, because there's a lot of shame associated with sex,
Mhm.
right?
Oh, yeah.
And that is like just exactly as you said, that's socialized into us from very, very early on.
Mhm.
And that's why I've been like so, I did a lot of podcasting in 2018 when
Uh-huh.
my first book came out,
Okay.
but the environment was so different than it is now. Like it was hard to get on podcasts,
Mm.
and radio really is, and radio
Uh-huh.
shows, right? But
Yeah.
like it's very different right now, which is great, right? It means that people are really understanding this is an important subject that we need to be talking about,
Yeah.
that pleasure is important, that sex is
Mhm.
important for our mental health and our physical health.
Mhm.
And so, the layer that holds us back from being able to really have these conversations is shame.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is, and I never really understood how much shame played a part in my life until I spoke to one of my guests, and her name was Emma Lyons, and she just obliterated what I thought shame was and wasn't, and ever since that conversation, I've been rethinking everything about my life and society norms and stuff, and how much of it is actually shame that's just in a guise of like safety or just like it's something, anything. It's really weird. And sex is one of those things that's like behind the biggest, blackest taboo door. It's like if you want to go in there, you have to follow these rules. And if you don't, you're out.
That's right.
And
You're
and it
weird, you're kinky,
yeah.
you're freaky,
Yeah.
whatever, right? It's
Mm,
it's so it's so so true. So, and I think that's why, like, in the way, I mean, right? The
mhm,
way we start to get over shame
mhm.
is how we get empower ourselves is by talking about it, by
Yeah.
normalizing it, by like, other people saying, "Oh my God, I had a dog that did that to me too. I'm not the only
Mhm.
person."
Yeah.
Right? Or, I also had a horrible childhood, or I also had,
Mhm.
sexual trauma that I've been afraid to talk about.
Yeah.
So talking about it and normalizing it is the way in which it starts to become more acceptable.
Mhm.
And I think that's so important. And that's what really holds us back. Honestly, like I have couples, I'm pointing because I'm in my office. I have couples sitting on my couch, right? They've been
Uh-huh.
married for 30 years, 45 years, who knows? They come
Mm.
in and they're like, Shanae, we've never really been able to talk about sex for 35 years.
What? Uh,
Yes, it's true.
uh, well,
It's insane. I mean, but it's happens all the time, Keegan. I'm
yeah.
swear to you, it happens all the time.
Yeah. And I think I can it's crazy to me in some sense, but that's because I'm kind of more open to talking about it with my wife, but don't get me wrong, it takes time to get there to that point whenever you come from a shamed background or something of a shamed or trauma background of
Right,
sorts too.
right.
And that's the thing too is that shame and trauma sometimes go hand in hand with each other.
Totally.
And we don't get to choose our traumas really. So a lot of people really kind of get shamed into not talking about sex,
Yeah.
and so we kind of fail, I think, in middle school and high school a lot with sex ed because that's a lot of more just like trying to scare people away from pregnancy kind of stuff. And it's not
Yeah.
really teaching anything,
Not at
you
all.
know.
Really not at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you're
Yeah.
the person that people should talk to if they're trying to figure out what sex is and how it's actually good for a person and their mental
Yes.
health, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because we have a really very narrow definition of what sex is, um,
Hmm.
in our culture. We do.
Well, Well, I mean, normally, I mean, I'm really curious, like, what other definition of sex is there? Because you did mention intimacy earlier, and that's a big thing,
It
but
is?
that's not necessarily sex, so is
No,
it?
no, it's not. So you want to talk about sex? Let's talk about sex for a moment.
Okay.
So most people, when I ask them, how do you define sex?
Mhm.
They basically say, we have intercourse. We call it in the sex therapy world penis and vagina sex,
Mhm.
PIV, right?
Mm.
That's how they define sex.
Mhm.
And if that doesn't happen,
Mhm.
then they haven't had successful sex, right? And they're looking for that outcome.
Oh.
If we
Oh.
if that doesn't happen, then I'm not
Mm.
satisfied. If that doesn't happen, I haven't satisfied my partner. If that doesn't
Oh.
happen, I've, let her down or I've let him down,
Mhm.
right? And that's
Oh.
a very narrow definition, right? That's just like,
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
right? It's
Mhm.
one part of our anatomy. I'm not saying it's not an important
Yeah.
part of our anatomy, but it's only one part of our anatomy. And
Yeah.
so, and that really limits us because
Mhm.
then we can't say, like I say, that
Uh-huh.
any type of erotic experience is sex.
Mhm.
If I'm sexting with my partner, but we're on opposite sides of the country, in
Uh-huh.
my view, we're kind of having sex. If we're
Uh-huh.
having this hot makeout session and that's all we're doing, we're
Mhm.
having a sexual interaction, right?
Mm,
So if you
yeah.
can start to really broaden the definition of sex,
Mhm.
it A opens up all of these possibilities, and B, it
Mhm.
takes all of the expectations and goals off the table because that holds
Mm.
people back. It really holds people back.
Yeah, that is for sure. I mean, whenever you started talking about it, I was like, "Oh, okay, that." Because my brain also was like, "Well, sex could also be like, are you male? Are you female?" And we're
Mhm.
not talking about that kind of sex, but
Mm-mm.
I mean, we could be in a sense. I don't know. That's a totally different ballpark, but
Yeah, different conversation.
um,
But yeah, it's your gender identity and all that. Yeah, for
mhm.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah, because that can play into his sexuality, but
absolutely. Yeah.
and like you were saying though, whenever we're playing by those expectations, if we don't meet them, then we can either build resentments towards our partner or ourselves really quick, right?
Right, right. We fail like a failure,
Mhm.
or we feel pressure, right? A
Yeah.
lot of people
Oh.
feel like pressure to perform.
Mhm.
Well, that doesn't make for a good experience because now,
No.
like, you're in your head
Mhm.
thinking about it and worrying about it as opposed to being in the experience of being
Mhm.
in your body, right? So being on the journey rather than worrying about like where are we going? Where do we have to get to
So
for this to be
so
successful?
yeah. For some reason, my brain just decided to play like for some reason that like, it's a long road trip, and sex is, like, the entire journey, but the kid is, like, in the minivan just like, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" And it's
Right? Exactly. That's
and
how it plays out.
yeah, and it's I would imagine that it's probably the guy that's pushing that, "Are we there yet?" And it's usually the female driving the van or whatever, going like, "Shut up, we're getting there." But that's
Yes,
just
that's probably true most of the time.
So how do we stop trying to I mean, get to the finish line before the finish line is even there? You know? How do we redefine that?
Yeah, we redefine it. We start having conversations.
Mhm.
We start talking about like, oh, we're having like some sort of, interaction tonight. What do we want it to look like? Does it
Mm.
have to end someplace? Can it just be like, we'll see what happens?
Mhm.
Can it be that, we're just going to give each other sensual massages and see how that feels, right?
Mhm.
So it's really forcing a conversation to happen and then to be vulnerable with each other and say, like, I know when you're faking it. Or I know when you feel this pressure to perform, or you
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? Like a
Yeah.
lot of couples don't have those conversations. When they
Mm.
start having the conversations, the walls come down and they're both like, "Oh my God, thank God."
Yeah.
I've been feeling all of this pressure all of these years. Um, that's not helpful,
Mm-mm.
right? So it really is about starting to, open up the conversation
Mm-hmm.
and, really taking a hard look at what we're actually really doing and whether it's actually serving us and whether our needs are getting met and whether,
Mm-hmm.
we're able to ask for what we want and have those types of conversations.
Yeah. Ooh. I think I kind of heard self-advocacy in there,
Self
right?
is a big.
But yeah, but I think one of the questions that I kind of have first though is for the people that, because you said bringing down the walls, right? To create that intimacy. Well,
Mhm.
whenever we're dealing with sex and intimacy, usually we're naked. And so whenever we're naked, a lot of people feel really vulnerable, like you were saying before. So a lot of people probably maybe don't feel very safe with their own self. Maybe that's part of the problem that kind of goes on. They're naked and they don't want the other person to see them naked or something along those lines, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, body shame and body image issues is a huge piece for both women and men, right? So that's
Mhm.
one of the shame issues that we have, that we don't like the way our body looks and we can't accept our body. And how could my partner possibly like this body that
Mhm.
I having a lot of issues with, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So I think that is definitely, a huge piece. But when we talk about vulnerability, right? So yes, in
Mhm.
order to really have an amazing sexual experience, you have to be very, very vulnerable and open. You can
Mhm.
have sex and not be vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
And that's more
Uh-huh.
just like routine, quickies,
Mhm.
But the foundation underneath a sexual relationship, a successful uh, sexual relationship, is the intimacy piece. And
Mm.
that's really what's important. And I think that, the vast majority of couples who are really struggling with their sexual relationship, their
Mhm.
sex life,
Yeah.
they're really struggling with their emotional intimacy and their emotional connection.
Ooh.
That's the underpinning, generally speaking. You know,
Uh-huh.
problems in your sex life is generally a symptom of
Mm.
relationship issues, and relationship issues go to safety and they go to
Mhm.
vulnerability and they go to the resentment that's been built up for not being able to repair conflicts all these years.
Mhm.
um, so I always work and start with that whole issue of emotional safety and
Uh-huh.
emotional connection, because right, when you feel emotionally safe with your partner, you can be more vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right? If I feel emotionally safe with my partner and I know they're not going to use sex
Mhm.
against me by weaponizing it, which a lot of people do,
Uh-huh. Unfortunately.
right? Or shame me,
Mhm.
um, or 100 other ways in which sex can become a weapon,
Uh-huh.
then I feel like I can be totally vulnerable and feel comfortable, being
Mhm.
naked and opening myself up in different ways and being, an avid explorer.
Uh-huh. So does someone need to be comfortable with their body before they can really explore someone else per se?
Not necessarily. I mean, body image issues, like I said, it's a big issue.
Mhm.
There are ways in which you can support your partner around that, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, not shaming them, not saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, honey, it looks like you put a couple of pounds on," right?
No, don't do that.
And just like really, it's easier often to
Mhm.
accept somebody else's body than it is to accept our body, right? Because we
Mhm.
think about, like, it's not what's on the outside, it's what's on the inside, right? And
Mhm.
so, like, telling your partner, like, oh, like, you look great, I love your butt, I love the way your breasts look, like, giving your partner compliments about their body really
Mhm.
helps to make the person who's having issues with their body image, like, settles them down and, like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, well, she really likes, my little middle, and finds that it's nice and fluffy and she can, like, put her hand in it and grab it. Cool.
And whenever people start getting comfortable with their partner to that level or getting their partner comfortable with themselves and stuff, that's whenever we can start being more intimate, right? Because we have to start kind of breaking that down at the same time, I guess. Because intimacy, you said was one of the things that we really need to kind of work on in
Right.
relationships, and it doesn't necessarily have to be sex,
Right.
but
For sure.
um how would you suggest people start to build that intimacy to get to that point of to close off, because that doesn't have to be foreplay necessarily either, right?
No. Well, I think one of the things that's really helpful is for you to understand that there are different like intimacy styles.
Mm.
I actually, and this is a great gift, and this is what I'm gonna. All of you all who are listening, you're gonna go to my website and take your test, which is called the intimacy equation formula,
Okay.
because there's lots of different ways in which we show up in an
Mhm.
intimacy way. Some people are more heart based. Some people
Mhm.
are more like kind of acts of service based. I'm not really talking about love languages, but it's like a kind of like a little bit of
Eh,
love languages. Some
yeah.
people are more like adventuresome, that they really want to do something, right?
Mhm.
That's how they express intimacy with their partner. And some people are more really focused on trust.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
that's really important. So there's lots of different ways. So I think one of the things is to start to understand, and this was a whole lot of my journey, start to understand, how do I express intimacy in a
Mhm.
relationship? Like, how do I receive it? What do I need from my partner? How
Mm.
do I give it? Um,
Uh-huh.
and then understanding how we connect together,
Mhm.
right? Like, if one person is really focused on trust and the other one is really focused on adventure, like,
Uh-huh.
how does that work? Right?
Yeah.
I want to, like, jump out of an airplane, and you're like, oh my God, we can't do that, right? So
Uh-huh.
so sort of learning how they feed each other, right? So I think that's
Uh-huh.
important to understand, like, your intimacy type. And then I think the second
Mhm.
part is, or intimacy equation, I think the second part of this, Keegan, is it also, by the way, helps to start the conversation, because a lot of times
Mm.
people will say, like, well, how do we begin? And I'm like, well, why don't you start a conversation by like taking a fun little quiz that's animated, and then like have your partner, and then you can, get it going, right? Because
Uh-huh.
starting is always sometimes the hardest thing.
Mhm.
And then I think it's really around creating, like, starting to create emotional connection and emotional safety. And I'm a big
Mhm.
believer that our eyes are the way in which we express emotions. It's one of the
Ah.
ways in which we express emotion. So if you come
Yeah.
work with me,
Uh-huh.
you're going to spend some fair amount of time in eye contact with your partner, doing different
Mm.
exercises, right?
Uh-huh.
Or, just starting to express some feelings. And it's amazing when I
Mm.
get two people and I sit them together. And I know this sounds super woo woo crazy, but and I have them look in each other's eyes and go through a little bit of some communication exercises, how the tears just start flowing, like people start really softening and the
Mhm.
walls start coming down, right? Why? Because
Mm.
let's break down intimacy.
Uh-huh.
Into me see. That's how I
Mm.
discuss intimacy, right? So what
Ah.
does that mean? It
Uh-huh.
means that I'm totally like, I'm allowing you to see who I am, all
Mhm.
of my good sides, all of my shit. I can say that, right? All of
Yeah.
my stuff,
Uh-huh.
all of the garbage that I bring into relationship, all of my wounds.
Mhm.
And that level of vulnerability creates a tremendous amount of connection and
Mm.
safety. And in
Uh-huh.
that safety, you can start to open yourself up to your
Mhm.
partner sexually. That's
Ooh.
that's how it works in my world.
Okay. That's awesome. So, one thing that I kinda caught right at the end there was maybe that's how people work through their traumas too with, sex whenever it comes to that. Is that right? Because the opposite of trauma is, well, healing or rather safety in a sense, right?
Yeah,
And
empowerment too, I think, as well.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
so,
Mhm.
I guess really those 2 kinda go in the same link with building up your partner, right?
Yeah, I mean, no doubt that if you've had sexual trauma or any type of trauma, right?
Mhm.
Because we know that any type of trauma impacts safety, and safety
Mhm.
impacts your sex life. Like, one of the first things we always try to do, of course, is to help a person create safety in their
Mhm.
body, right?
Yeah.
Learn how to regulate, how to self regulate, how to
Mhm.
regulate their nervous system,
Uh-huh.
how to feel safe in their body. Because as we know, people with trauma generally don't feel safe in their body, right?
No.
So, right. So it takes a lot of self work here
Mhm.
to be able to create that safety in your body, where then, despite the fact that your partner is the best person in the world and they are not the person who hurt you or
Mhm.
raped you or assaulted you or abused
Mhm.
you, right?
Mhm.
Your body doesn't know the difference. Your body still has that like somatic experience of like, oh my God, somebody's
Uh-huh.
coming to touch me and it's not safe, right? So
Mhm.
absolutely. And I'm a somatic experiencing
Uh-huh.
trauma practitioner and SE. We spend a lot of time helping people learn how to regulate their nervous system, how to go from a very activated sympathetic state to a more neutral, to a more regulated parasympathetic
Mm.
state in their nervous system. So that's a
Okay.
very important component
Huh.
when you're working with trauma.
Okay. So could someone sit there and do that kind of work before getting intimate with their partner if that's what it takes to get them to feel safe enough? But it's almost the opposite, right? Because sex is usually ramping everything up.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of work with couples who one of whom has sexual trauma. A
Mhm.
challenging it's a challenging dynamic at times, right?
Yeah.
Again, depending upon how it resonates in that person, how resilient
Mhm.
they are, how much it shows up during sex. Sometimes it doesn't really show up much. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's all that they can think about.
Mm.
And so it's not it's a long term it's long
Yeah.
term is what I would say. It's very, very
Mhm.
just like any type of trauma work is. It's very titrated. It's very slow.
Mhm.
It's having to repeat it over and over and over again. So your
Mhm.
body, and then releasing the trauma that's in your body
Mhm.
as well, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I teach in my on my when I work with couples and I do
Uh-huh.
retreats, private retreats, I teach different ways of touch,
Uh-huh.
4 different ways of touch. And one of the ways of touch is, I, I, I coordinated it to the different earth elements. So I talk about
Yeah.
earth touch, right?
Uh-huh.
Which is like being held. And
Mm.
so for a lot of people with trauma,
Mhm.
slowing down is so important. Like
Mhm.
that's one of the ways to create safety. It's
Uh-huh.
also the way in which you actually can have a better sex life is to slow everything down.
Mm.
But, slowing down creates safety because usually their body has this experience of something coming at them very, very fast and they having no control
Mhm.
over it, right?
Mhm.
So earth touch is often a way in which you can start to settle your nervous system when your partner just hugs you and
Mm.
holds you and there's stillness, right? And there's
Mhm.
like lots of different ways that you can do that, and I teach that. So that is a way in which for many people, and again, typically they have to go slow, and they
Mhm.
often have to be in control of the sexual situation.
Mm.
They have
Gotcha.
they have to be in control of the pace.
Mhm.
They may have to be on top, right?
Mhm.
They control when penetration happens. They just have
Mhm.
to be in control. That's
Mm.
another way to be able to feel safe.
Mm. Yeah, flipping the script and giving them the empowerment
Totally.
that they didn't
They
have.
didn't have, right,
Yep.
exactly. Mhm.
Yeah, I love that. And real quick, people can find you over at how to improve what?
How to improve my love life.com. How to improve my love life, not your love life, my love life.com.
Awesome. And for everyone out there, it will be in the episode description whenever this episode is fully released. But for everyone that's watching right now, it should be at the bottom of the screen for last. It's gone. You missed it.
It
So
was
it's how.
there.
Yeah, it's there. I swear.
I saw
But
it.
Yeah. And that's one of those things is that you also said we need to be able to release that trauma. And I mean, honestly, that sounds kind of like an orgasm to me, just a ultimate release. But not everyone really understands what that is, right?
Yeah. So, what happens with trauma
Mm-hmm.
is, the energy gets
Mm-hmm.
trapped in your body. So, if, somebody attacked you
Uh-huh.
and you were not able to fight off that attack and you sort of went
Mm-hmm.
into a freeze, that energy gets stuck, basically gets stuck in the body. um,
Mm.
and through the somatic experiencing process, which is the one that I'm trained in and familiar with, what we
Mm-hmm.
do is we very gradually start to like get in contact with a little bit of that sensation,
Mm-hmm.
and then allow, sort of watch the body and allow it to unwind slowly. And
Mm.
so the release of energy can happen in a lot of different ways.
Okay.
But it's all like autonomic. So it can happen from, sometimes people will shake. So you'll see
Mm.
them starting to shake. That's release
Mm-hmm.
of energy.
Mm.
Sometimes they get really hot. You can see
Uh-huh.
their face get really hot. Sometimes they get the chills and they
Mm-hmm.
get really cold.
Huh.
Sometimes there's yawning, like big. Sometimes I've sat with clients and they're just constantly yawning, right? And that's
Uh-huh.
a big release of the trauma,
Mm-hmm.
in the body. So that's one of the ways in which the body starts to release the trapped energy from the trauma, and
Mm-hmm.
that starts to free up the body. So the body begins to know, okay, I can sort of take a step in that direction and not have that same experience.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay.
powerful work.
Yeah, I love that. And what's crazy is that I went through a period myself where I was unable to yawn for about 5 or 6 years.
Mm.
Uh yeah, that's the weirdest thing, like being able to start having a yawn and then it just completely cuts off. It was the weirdest thing
Oh, I've actually had that experience. I
yeah.
had that experience for a period of time when I was very activated in a relationship
Mhm.
with somebody, as a matter of fact.
Mhm.
And I couldn't sleep. And
Mhm.
I couldn't yawn. And it
Yeah.
was drove me crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, it was nuts. The first time I had a yawn again was in therapy.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
uh, I'm really glad you brought that up because I didn't realize that that was a release of trauma right there. So,
Yeah, yeah. And
interesting.
also like yawning is like a vagus nerve activation
Mhm.
as well, right? Like
Yeah.
that is of course in the parasympathetic part of the nervous system. But absolutely, yes, I can completely relate to that. It's horrible.
Yeah,
It
I
is.
don't wish that on anyone. At one
Oh,
point, I was like, I wish there was a yawn coach or something, someone to tell me why I can't yawn, but
yeah,
now I guess I kinda know why. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah.
Um, real quick, we are getting near the end of this episode, which really sucks because this is an awesome episode, and I just gotta ask, do you think we could see you on in the future again at some point?
We definitely can because Keegan, I have a new book that's coming out in March, March 4th.
Ooh.
It's called The Sex and Intimacy Repair Kit: How
Ooh,
to Enhance Communication and Create a Lifetime of Passionate Intimacy. Um,
okay.
so I would love to come back, and it's actually pre-orderable now. You can find all that information if you go to that website. But I'd love to come back and talk about that,
Sweet.
as well. There's some really great stuff in that book.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that because this has been an awesome and empowering episode. But I've got to ask if you want to play our quick game show real quick.
Okay, I'm all in. I'm
Alrighty.
all in.
All right, Janae. So this game show segment is called the Pleasure Principle
Mhm.
Quickfire. No pun intended, I guess. So I'm
Let
going
me
to
take,
read a quick say again.
so let me take a breath.
All right. So I'm going to read a quick fire prompt. And Janae, I just need you to give me a 1 to 3 word answer followed by a one sentence explanation of why you said that.
Okay, we'll give it
All
a
righty.
shot.
All right. Here we go. What's the quickest way to reconnect to your body?
Take a breath.
Take a breath. All right. What's the explanation for that?
The more you breathe, the more you feel.
Ooh, dude, I love that. All right. What about, is painful sex inevitable after trauma?
It's not inevitable.
Okay. An explanation on that one?
Well, some people, I don't know if I can do this in a sentence. Let's see, it's not inevitable. Um, Everybody responds to trauma in a different way. It's not inevitable.
Gotcha. Okay. I love that.
Mhm.
What, okay. What about one essential key to great foreplay?
Slow down. When you slow down, you get to be much more present in your body and present with your partner, and you get to feel your own sensations.
Mm, okay. I think I just got to slow down in general with everything I do. What's more important, orgasm or pleasure?
Oh, pleasure.
Pleasure?
Orgasm is amazing, but if you make that a goal, it's going to make you crazy at some point because you're going to miss
Mm.
all of the nuances of the pleasure in your body.
Ooh, okay. I'll have to keep that in mind too. All right. What about one activity to increase I'm going to get roasted for saying this, but libido?
Libido.
Libido. Ah, I got the first time.
Oh, one activity to increase libido. Okay. Depends whether it's a woman or man, but I would say like do a sexy dance.
Ah, somatic dance? Somatic
Some
sexy dance?
sexy dance with yourself in front of a mirror with your partner.
Ah, okay. Huh.
Not touching, like just feel the energy between the two.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Huh. That that's going to be pretty fun to try. All
That's
right. True or false? You need a partner to practice tantra.
No, that's totally false.
Totally
There,
false?
yeah, tantra can be done solo. Absolutely. In fact, there
Gotcha.
are there are books on solo tantra.
Ah, I
Mhm.
think that we need to dive into tantra maybe a little bit more next episode
Okay.
too. Because like I said, we've got a ton of rabbit hole trains to follow on this one. All right, what does the body need to feel safe?
Oh, what does it need to feel safe? Oh, it needs to know that it will be respected.
Mm, okay.
Yeah,
Needs to know that it'll be
be
respected.
respected. Mhm.
Okay. I think the explanation on that isn't really needed.
Yeah.
What about the biggest barrier to intimacy?
The biggest barrier to intimacy is
Hmm.
a lack of emotional connection and not feeling emotionally safe.
Oof. Ugh. Yeah. Okay. Right there too. And then last one for this evening. Better name for sexless marriage.
Better name for a sexless marriage. Sexually challenged. I don't know. That's a hard one, Keegan. What do you think the answer should be?
Better name for sexless marriage. What about rock paper scissors?
I like it.
All right. So, Janae, thank you for playing our game, The Pleasure Principle Quickfire. And because you've delighted us with your astounding knowledge of all things pleasure, we have decided to bestow upon you the honorary title of the Oracle of Embodied Delight.
Oh, I
So,
love that.
well, thank you for playing our little game show with us. And I got one last question, if you don't mind.
Of course.
All
Go.
right. Janae, the name of this podcast is Retrieving Sanity, and we explore how all facets of living life impact mental health. Looking at the incredible motley adventures of your life, what does retrieving sanity personally mean to you today? And what's one practice or perspective you believe is crucial for anyone on that journey?
Oh my God. Okay, that's a big question.
It is a big question. I'm
That's a
sorry.
really big question. Okay. Can you say it again?
Okay.
Or just
I'll
just give me the.
What is the best thing that you do on a daily basis to maintain your mental health?
Okay, the bad. Thank you.
Okay.
What do I do on a daily basis to maintain my mental health?
Hmm.
Well, one of the things that I do that's super powerful and helpful for me is I do a nervous system meditation. every
Ooh.
night before
Ooh.
I go to bed, which I love because it really allows me to yawn
Oh.
and relax because I need to, I'm a New
Uh-huh.
Yorker. I need to I need to bring things down. It's easy for
Mhm.
me to get very like hyper up
Mhm.
and not be able to sleep. So that and sleep is very important for mental health, right? So
Yeah.
that is something that I highly recommend.
Okay. What is there a specific one that you do? I haven't heard of a
Yes.
nerve.
So there's this woman on YouTube. There, if you look up nervous system reset or nervous system meditation,
Mhm.
there's this woman on YouTube. Her name is Karen Hope.
Okay.
Karen Hope, and she does this beautiful one. Like I just hear her voice and I start relaxing and yawning. And it's just a beautiful nervous system reset. And I do
Huh.
it. She has a couple of different ones. And I do it, religiously. Tapping also,
Mhm.
like EFT
Mhm.
tapping
Yeah.
is another thing that I do as well. And I do like the sleep tap usually.
Mm.
There's one that's about shutting your brain off, like because you're thinking about, which my brain does. It's like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that tomorrow, and I can't sleep.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I just really try to do things to really settle my nervous system because I know that for me, and I think for everybody, when your nervous system is settled, you can sleep better. The
Mhm.
rest and digest, your digestion is better,
Mhm.
and you just wake up more clear-headed in the morning. So
Yeah.
that's how I retrieve my sanity, Keegan.
Awesome. I love that, Janae. That is way too good because we've talked about meditation, we've talked about all that kind of stuff, and I mean, I think we're just tying it all up into one big old loop because eventually we're going to have to get back right to it. What I was trying to get to, I don't know. I lost myself like in mid sentence. So here we go.
Wait,
But
I just want to know again, what was the name of what you just crowned me? Because I want to put that
oh,
on
the
I want to put that on Instagram tomorrow. I'm gonna do a little screenshot of us here.
yeah,
Just
the Oracle of Embodied Delight.
the Oracle of Embodied Delight. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
I love that. All right. The Oracle of Embodied Delight. I'm going to write an
Yep.
email on that.
Well, Sinead, I just gotta say thank you very much for being on Retrieving Sanity tonight because this has been an amazing conversation. I can't wait to have you on again because you're right. We need to have these kind of conversations to help people break that shame barrier, delete everything that they think they know about sex and intimacy because they're probably wrong because it doesn't have to be fast. What? Question mark? So
Slow is better.
slow is better. With that being said, is there anything you want to shout out or anything else you got for the audience before we end it here?
I think I just want to tell everybody this is a strong belief I have that pleasure is your birthright.
Mm,
That you were born to have pleasure, that you should be having pleasure, and if you're not, you should do something about it. Just
mm,
don't accept like I did for 30 years that my body couldn't give me pleasure. Like that's just not true. No matter what you've been through, right? It is
hmm.
available for you in some form or another. And if you can't access it, go find somebody who can help you.
Yeah. Oof, that is powerful. I thank you very much for that astounding message because I know some people out there, including myself, probably have to hear that. So,
Mm.
everyone out there, thank you for listening to Retrieving Sanity on WDJY 99.1 FM. And as always, if you've got a mental health crisis, you can dial 988. If you're part of the LGBTQ plus community, you can dial the Trevor Project up in Canada. But remember, you've got to love yourself. Try to love others if you can, but you've got to love yourself first. And we will see you all next week. Oh, I said you all. What? I'm Texan. We will see y'all next week. With that being
Yeah.
said, much love. Schlan.